Great good morning, everyone. It is a beautiful Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. My Cordaro Jewelers watch time, 9:13 a.m. Broadcasting today from the United States of America. Yeah, we have someone who actually cares about Americans in charge. And it's the place where the brave, like the veterans we honor today, whom we lost this year, thanks to John Basiliga and his great companies. They made us and kept us free. People like Jay Wendell, formerly of South Carolina, but he was from Mountaintop. John Sable, Wellsboro, formerly of Edwardsville and Plains. Stephen Andraco, Wilkes-Barre. William Lavelle, Scranton. Anthony Yaninis, Hanover Township. And Alessandro Sonny Tuzzi, Mayfield, the United States of America, founded with a certain knowledge and understanding by our incredible, irreplaceable, indispensable founding fathers, that government is not, shall not be, cannot be our parent, our guide, our direction, our salvation. Not any of these things, but is nothing more than a necessary evil we require to organize and protect society. The United States of America, the country where, for the first time in human history, freedom was declared to be an unalienable right, granted to each individual by God. It was not something that could be parceled out to groups. Freedom could not be controlled by government or government officials because our great Constitution ensures and codifies freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of association, economic freedom, and freedom of the press, whether they lie about immigration or not, and whether idiots follow them or not. Now, armed with these freedoms, and only because they had them, a ragtag bunch of immigrants, rejects, and their progeny created the richest, most powerful, most culturally diverse and accepting nation ever to grace our planet Earth. America, the only place specifically invented and designed so that every American can live their life in the manner they choose, unlimited by their background, upbringing, race, color, or creed, unhindered by the government or those who would use government to control others for their own comfort, benefit, or power. This Bob Cordaro Show, well, it will always be convincingly conservative, lovingly logical, proudly and passionately patriotic, and reliably right. And so we gavel to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, assuring you that we will provide a sanctuary of sanity for you for the balance of this morning. Yeah. So, my man Art W. sent me film from the Scranton edition of the idiotic, and I mean idiotic, lie-based protest on Saturday. What was it? No Kings? Is that what they called it? And Trump and a few others, but Trump very cleverly said, boy, I thought we were taken over by a king. I thank God for the protests. But Commissioner Gaughan, Lackawanna County Commissioner Gaughan, he gave this long, impassioned speech quoting Maya Angelou. And this one, and I saying to myself, this is 15 minutes of lies I will never get back. What an ass. He's a complete ass. And the people standing there are the ones whose taxes he just walloped them all with a tax increase because he and his arrogance doesn't know how to change course with Lackawanna County government. So his incompetence, he's telling them how he's fighting for them and with them, except he's killing them. Oh, it was absolute disgrace. And I saw Bridget Kozorowski there, our state representative, and I saw Kyle Donahue standing there waiting to give their speeches. I didn't see anybody else. I didn't see Mayor Many Names, just for example. I don't know. My best guess is she was there with bells on. But that would be a guess. So shame on all of them. And Gaughan gets up there for 15 minutes and lies and lies and lies. And that's why we played this, not because of him, but because of the protests overall. We played this morning. What phony liars is there? Zero. Self-awareness, like zero. They were just like doing cartwheels. And that's why I also brought in, not only did their idol Biden, who Gaughan named the street after, bring in somewhere between 12 and 20 million illegals. They forget that part. And now they're oppressed and oh my God. They broke the law. They're not supposed to be here. But nobody cared when Clinton was kicking them out. Nobody cared when Obama was kicking them out by the millions. Trump can't even, he's not even in their league as far as deportations. I pray he gets there. And then the phonies and the liars are speechifying right in the teeth of the truth. It's unbelievable. And this fool's raising taxes and reassessment is going like a nightmare for everybody. He's destroying Lackawanna County. He's trying to make county taxpayers pay for his political fight with Marty Flynn. And he's up there, high and mighty, and so it's truly unreal. They've just got this reservoir of fake righteous indignation that is so deep, it's literally all they are. They've got no substance. And they don't care if they're lying. They don't care if they just don't care. And most of the people there were dumb enough to be cheering and clapping because those who weren't paid were being used. Wow, we've never had a scarier breed of cats than the gang that was led by Bill Gaughan on Saturday. The statements out of his mouth, you're just sitting there. You really, if you hadn't heard his idiocy before, your jaw would drop. Scary, frightening. I was going to play it, and I said, this speech was repeated all across the country, so why glorify his stupidity? I just said, well, let's see what they did or what they cared about when Obama was kicking people out of the country by the millions, when Clinton was doing it, when they were all proclaiming border security was critical. And then they just switch tracks. They go the opposite direction and pretend it never happened. That's why you know, ladies and gentlemen, if you're with me in the Club for Common Sense, that's why you know you're on the right side of things. Literally no truth. All right, well, I'm wearing my Camp Freedom T-shirt. They had a great event up at the Anthracite Hotel in Carbondale on Saturday, and our man Timmy Mack, who's on the board up there, kindly bought me a T-shirt. There's our executive producer, Mr. Paul. He's sort of a large, portly man, and there was talk coming from, ironically, from Mr. Paul, that I wouldn't fit into the 2XL. Well, I fit very comfortably. I could probably wear an XL. But Mr. Paul, however, I'm going to give maybe this 2X and I'm going to let him stitch it together with the 2X he received, and maybe the two combined will fit him. And then he could proudly proclaim Camp Freedom as one of the greatest places on earth. All right. Well, Picardo Watch Time and Picardo Jewelers Watch Time tells me it's 9:23. It tells me we've got to take a break. Bob Cordaro on the eponymous program. We will roll on after this. Murph says this date, 1965. The Beatles finished recording their hit yesterday at EMI Studios, London. Bob Cordaro back with you on the program, and we let you know that Picardo Jewelers, your Breitling watch store time is 9:29, headed into the Veterans Tribute for this hour. Yeah, it's so disturbing. Somebody texted, changing the street name to Biden Street and naming the expressway without public input, increasing taxes 33%, claiming he has the authority to choose the next commissioner, then using taxpayer funds without authorization to sue, then getting on his soapbox complaining about Kings and watching all his supporters clap and cheer like a bunch of lemmings. Yeah. There is no sense of irony. There's no self-awareness in these left-wing lunatics like Gahan. God forbid. It's truly frightening. They are frightening people. Like proclaiming things that are the exact opposite of the truth and complaining about things that are exactly what they do. This is today's Democrat Party. Doug liked the Beatles tune, by the way. Well, you got to thank Murph, not me. But we're in a scary place where we've got a percentage of the country, and we saw it in Scranton, we saw it in Wilkes-Barre. At least there was some opposition of consequence in Wilkes-Barre. Bob Bowles had his trailer downtown. So good for that at least. But I don't know if strident opposition is the answer because there's a mental illness on the other side. There's a complete denial of truth, fact, and reality. And you want to, you would want to, if you could have an intelligent conversation with them, which is probably not possible, you would ask people like Commissioner Gahan, all right, was it okay to let the millions and millions in as your idol Joe Biden did? And that's why I played about the children. Part of Gahan's speech is, well, you know, if we said nothing, if we did nothing, it's our duty to speak up and resist. Well, didn't you want to resist when these tens of thousands of children were sold into slavery, both child labor and sex slavery? Didn't you want to protest then? No, you were silent then. Like, everything he said in his speech is what he's done. To much worse reality. Where are those kids now? Like we played at the opening of the program, they don't even know where they are. They didn't even bother to get accurate addresses. They were so busy waving kids in so that they wouldn't lose congressional seats. Oh, yeah, there was some idiots who were wanted to show their compassion. But it was all about congressional seats, reapportionment. It had nothing to do with being nice to people who need to be in this country. The phoniness, the lies. What a disgrace. It's unbelievable. It's unreal. Well, Bill Gahan, that's why I said I don't like to pick on Lilliputians. But the fact is, he's the embodiment of everything that's sick, twisted, and wrong with the Democrat Party. And I was so disappointed to see Kyle Donahue there, state representative, and Bridget Kozorowski. And what that shows is you can't vote for Democrats because they will follow along with anything. God forbid, if they believed in the pap and the lies that were spread Saturday, they should be kicked out of office today. But see, they follow along. That's what happened to Bob Casey and Matt Cartwright. They follow along. Next thing you know, they are left-wing lunatics. So he says, Bob, why do they act like ICE raids are new? Don't they remember Cheech and Chong movies, Chips, TV shows, everything from the 80s? It's so phony. It's so made up. It's so manufactured. It's frightening. All right. Cordaro Jewelers, your Oris watch store. Time is 9:34. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We've got a veterans tribute. We've got the weather. And then we have you, 570-883-0098. Our Veterans Tribute brought to you this hour and every hour, this day and every day, by our man John Basiliga and his great companies, including Serenity Personal Care. 4 locations: Mid-Valley, Old Forge, Wyoming, Kingston. Dementia care units are located at Mid-Valley and Kingston properties. All of them have been completely renovated and redone, accepting new residents. They are the gold standard of senior care in Northeast Pennsylvania. Check them out, Serenity Care. Anthony Yanninas. Mr. Yanninas passed on May 2nd. He was from Hanover Township. He suffered and died from cancer. Upon graduating from Hanover High School, Anthony proudly served in the U.S. Navy, serving us in the Korean War. He attended the Wilkes-Barre Business College, Wilkes-Barre, employed as a foreman construction worker with statewide construction in Wilkes-Barre. Along with serving in the Navy, it gets better. He served in the reserves alongside his son Mark from 1985 to 1987. How about that? He enjoyed long car rides with his beloved wife, Lorraine. He loved real country like Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson. He's survived by his loving wife for 65 years, Lorraine. His children, 3 of them. Grandchildren, 8 of them. Great-grandchildren, 2 of them. Member of the Amvest Post 59, Hanover Township, Anthony Yanninas. Alessandro Sonny Tuzzi. We lost him April 23rd. With heavy hearts, but also a sense of peace, his family says. He passed away surrounded by his loved ones. Preceded in death by his wife of 61 years, the former Florence Milewski. She died in 2017. He was born in Mayfield, a veteran of the U.S. Army, having served us in the Korean War. Before that conflict, in 1945, he joined the family business, Tuzzi Trucking, working alongside his father and brothers. He cherished seeing the business grow into the 3rd and 4th generations with his son Joseph and Joseph's sons. He was a member of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, Cottage Hose Company, Carbondale, the American Legion in Carbondale, and Our Lady of Rosary Parish, Carbondale. Unwavering strength and work ethic. Many, many friends at Gentex. He's survived by his 1 son, 2 daughters, 9 grandchildren, 16 great-grandchildren, and other family members. Great legacies, both. Alessandro Sonny Tuzzi. Our great veterans this hour brought to you by John Basiliga and Serenity Care. Oh, that's the weather. Let's see. Storm Tracker 16 forecast, meteorologist Joe Snedeker. Today, cloudy with on and off drizzle and showers, 68. Tonight, mostly cloudy, low 60. Wednesday, partly sunny with a chance of showers and thunderstorms, 82. Thursday, partly sunny and warmer, chance of showers and thunderstorms, high 88. Oh. I'm trying to golf today. Our well, friends of so many, my old teammate Vic Fangio is defensive coordinator with the Eagles. I believe the reason they won the Super Bowl. We're supposed to go with him, brother Ron, and Vic's lady Kathy today. I'm not for endurance tests when it comes to golf. We'll see. We'll see if we get it in. Anyway, and he's a determined golfer, so I know I'm going to have to suffer through this whole thing. But I said, when you say yes, you've got to do it. That's just what it is. Yesterday, speaking of golf, Mike Munchak had his annual fundraising golf tournament up at the Country Club of Scranton. And, man, I can't even imagine. I can't remember how many years it is. It's got to be... Man, it's got to be close to 30 years. And so ran into some of Mike's old Penn State guys who I became friends with through Mike over the years. Rick D'Amico, Chet Parlavecchio. We chat on, and it's one of those things, you see somebody that you haven't seen for... a decade or more? I mean, I was in prison 8.5 years. I was home confinement. I was not allowed to go because my fellow defendant, A.J. Munchak, and I went the 1 year and A.J. was there, and it was like I had to get in and get out because you couldn't consort with felons while you're on supervised release. Anyway, there's guys you don't see forever, and it's like you saw them yesterday. Isn't that so comfortable? And so the thing I've been talking to about Chet Parlavecchio, if you're Penn State fans, you remember them. These guys actually almost get me back to Penn State after what they did to Paterno and those kids in the fraternity. Anyway, Chet and I talked about that on this year, this football season. He's going to do a Monday wrap-up of college and pro. Now, knowing Chet, he wants to be on for hours. Well, we've only, our attention span for sports is only so much. So we'll bring him in. We'll rein him in. But Chet Parlavecchio is going to be with us as the fall comes and football starts to become the subject. And we'll add that to the Weekend Warrior and the Pie Man Cometh, and that'll be our sports thing in football season anyway. But, yeah, just great to see them. Another successful event despite literally getting rained off the course and drowned everybody. I didn't play. So, Chet and Rick and Mike Munchak. It was just what a great Robbie Gavin. It was just the great guys. I didn't get to see some of them. The Zankners were all there. 28 years, somebody texted in. Thank you. 28 years this Munchak tournament. They've raised millions for United Way, which is a great, actually, the charitable organization, if you want to be truthful. The former head, Gary Drapek, was there. Yeah, what a great. My buddy Dennis McAnder was there. Dude was there. Little dude. Just a bunch of great characters. And Timmy Wagner. I could go through the list. I'm telling you. It was beyond enjoyable, and it was a hit or miss because I had to do something before and after. And but that hour and a half or whatever I spent up at CCS was just great. It really was. All right, well, we've got to take a break here. Bob Cordaro, WILK. The eponymous program rolls on, and Bacardo Jewelers, your Longines watch store. Time is 9:46. We'll be back. The Hollies. Murph tells us they released their hit Bus Stop, this date, 1966. Ricardo Jewelers, your Michelle watch store. Time is 9:55. Something that my man Mark Mayer texted in, and he's aware of my guy Chet Parlavecchio. He said he's a New Jersey coaching stud. Guess what? Chet's son is now coaching high school there. Incredibly successful. Chet's retired. You look at him, you wouldn't think, you'd say, why would he? But he went through the whole, did it for decades. Superintendent of schools, all that. Anyway, we got to get out and see one of those games this fall. But Mark Mayer texts in the 9 principles of propaganda. Number 1, lie big. Big lies work better than small because the masses won't believe that anyone would lie about that. Number 2, focus. Don't make it complicated. Ignore history. Keep it simple for simple minds. Number 3, repeat. People cannot tell the difference between facts and familiarity. If they hear the same words repeated enough, they become true in their minds. Well, that was that crowd Saturday. 4, blame. Never credit the other side. Always blame, debase, defame, and dehumanize. Number 5, provoke. Provoke outrage, fear, and resentment. They're more powerful than reason, logic, or facts. Number 6, crisis. Issues must be life or death, good versus evil, love versus hate, us versus them. Urgency defeats objection because, as Bill Gaughan said yesterday, this is the Nazis. This is Hitler. 7, emotion. A person might question facts, but they will never question their own feelings. Go emotional. Number 8, pander. Ignore reasonable arguments. Demonize all who disagree as having bad intentions. Yeah, the Hitlerites, the MAGAs, they're so evil. Number 9, no limits. Morality is for losers. The victor's morality will not be questioned. No limits. Thank you for that. I'm going to have the Bulldog print that because that is... It's frighteningly true. Frighteningly true. Man, oh man, oh man. I watched that speech and I said, and these people are lapping it up. Hey, when we come back on the other side, we're going to have Brian Kincaid. Murder in Old Forge. Remember the Eluzio murders? Well, it's been in the news here and there. And we're going to go into all of that. Looking forward to that after the news. Let's quickly, and Joe, we got just about a minute before the top of the hour. Fire away, my man, Joe in Berwick.
So what I wanted to point out to you was the irony, again, of people saying we don't have kings, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they allow an entire political class to live amongst us in ways that basically mirror royalty. And here's another example of it. Democrats are now clamoring for some kind of security measures and all kinds of, new protections because of what's happened in Minnesota. Well, I'm not saying that was right. But what I am saying is the people in downtown Los Angeles who own businesses and are having their lives destroyed have the very same rights constitutionally as does any elected official. So now you ask yourself, well, wait a minute. If law enforcement can't be strong enough to protect the people in downtown Los Angeles, why? How does it get to be strong enough to protect elected officials? And don't tell me it's because they're any more vulnerable. They have the same rights as the rest of us. And that's, I just thought of that when you were talking about all this.
You're, look at, if to be a lefty, to support today's Democrat Party, you have to be a liar and a hypocrite. You actually aren't given any options. There's no option. There's no other option because they're not in a normal place. And they're not normal people. They're not thinking normally at all. Crazy stuff, Joe.
You just covered that. Thank you.
All right, my man. Thank you. Yeah, it is time for the news with Brian Hughes and because Bicardo Watch Time, Bicardo Jewelers, your Shinola watch store. Time is 10 a.m. Let's go to the news. We'll be back. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. You know it, baby. Great good morning, everyone. Picardo Watch Time, 10:06 a.m. here in the great Northeast. This beautiful but drizzly Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he. And it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values, and with the help of our man John Basiliga and his great company, Serenity Care, to honor the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like veterans we lost this year, but have the great honor of celebrating today, like Alessandro Sonny Tuzzi, Mayfield, Anthony Yaninis, Hanover Township, Stephen Andraco, Wilkes-Barre, William Lavelle, Scranton, John Sable, Edwardsville and Plains, Jay Wendell, Leda, South Carolina, from Mountaintop. So with history, our great founding fathers, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let us continue today's battle. A reminder, this Bob Cordaro Show, it'll always be convincingly conservative, lovingly logical, proudly and passionately patriotic, and reliably right. And yes, the double entendre is intended. So we gavel back to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense after that brief news adjournment, promising a sanctuary of sanity for all of you for the balance of this morning. And we've got an amazing story. And we've got the author, attorney Brian Kincaid, of the new book, Murder in Old Forge. And it's about Joe Aluzio, a young man who killed two of his neighbor children in Old Forge way back when. And we're gonna talk about that. Many of you probably are very aware of it. It struck terror. It was kids killing kids, a kid killing kids. It struck terror into everyone, just shock in the community. Well, we're blessed not only with the author, but with Ernie Priate, who was the district attorney at the time, who not only investigated but prosecuted the case. And they're both with us now. First of all, Brian Kincaid, welcome to the Bob Cordaro Show. How are you?
Good morning, Bob. Pleasure to be on.
Ernie, we've got you too. How are you, Ernie Priate?
Good morning, everybody.
Hey, Brian Kincaid, first, give us an overview of the crime for those who may not have heard of it before.
Well, you go to a Sunday afternoon, a summer Sunday afternoon in Old Forge, 1981, July 26th, a little rainy like today, a little warmer, and as many parents would do back in the day, you grew up in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, you weren't hovered over all the time. Mm-hmm. So Cheryl Ziemba, age 8, her little brother Christopher, age 4, asked their parents, Chester and Diane, could we go out and play in the backyard? And there's a trailer park. They lived off Drake's Lane in Old Forge. Could we go play over on the street by the trailer park, Seaman Lane? Could we go back there? Sure, you could go back there. Just make sure you're back by dinner. So this is about 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
How old are these kids at the time?
Cheryl is 8 and Christopher is 4. Mm-hmm. And they're riding their bikes. They're riding their bikes up and down Seaman Lane, there's a little trailer park there off of Drake's Lane and Hard Street on Old Forge. And they're riding their bikes. They're minding their own business. And then they're gone. About 5 o'clock, parents start looking for them. By 6 o'clock, the police are involved. By 10 o'clock at night, it's the sum of all fears. You have children missing. And it speaks something about the people of Lackawanna County and Old Forge. There were over 500 volunteer searchers in addition to the police, in addition to the volunteer fire departments, all looking for a trace of Christopher and Cheryl, and they can't find them. Can't find them at all. They're all over town. They're up on the mountain looking. It's raining. It's nighttime, and they're all out there. They call off the search at 4:30 in the morning. There's going to be a meeting at a command post. They set up a command post at the White Eagle Firehouse in Old Forge. We're going to restart the search early in the morning, and then about 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning, two local residents, Frank Lasota and his wife Diane, said, "You know what? We can't sleep. We've been searching all night. Let's go look. Let's go look around." And on a wooded hill, most of it's gone now by new housing construction. It was called Quarry Slope, a Cullen Bank, really. Right near the Ziemba house, they find a bloody carpet, strands of hair, pieces of skull, pieces of brain. So now we know something's happened to the kids. State Police Major Crimes come, headed by Mike Jordan, the State Police Lieutenant at the time. Ernie Priate, the DA, is down there, and they're searching, and they find this. Diane Ziemba, when she hears of this find, is so upset. She has an anxiety attack. They have to send her to Moses Taylor Hospital. And they know something happened to the kids, but they can't find them. Still going through Old Forge. Whole that Monday. Still nothing. You get into Tuesday, a group of volunteer firefighters from Old Forge Host, Stanley Zatovitz, Frank Janelle, who was 17 at the time, a junior firefighter, Mike Nelvanko, two others. They go up, Edward Zalek, Rich Besicon, they go up into the mountains, up to the old strip mining pits off Connell Street. Go to one pit, they don't find anything. They go to the next strip mining pit. Frank Janelle, the junior firefighter, looks down and starts screaming. There are the Ziemba children wrapped in carpets. And those carpets would ultimately lead to Joey Elizio. And if anything, the story is a cautionary tale. It's a cautionary tale, of course, of, always knowing where your kids are. And I can't blame the Ziembas for that. Everybody did that back then. But it's also a cautionary tale of letting somebody, a teenager, go out of control. Because this was building. This was building for months, if not years before.
Brian Kincaid is our guest.
Like this was
he's the author of a new book, Murder in Old Forge. Ernie Priate, do you remember the onset of your involvement as district attorney in this case?
Absolutely. Crystal clear.
Tell us.
Never forget it. Brian has described it accurately.
Tell us about when you came on the scene, when you came to Old Forge, what you saw, what you knew, what you did.
Well, after the folks that Brian had mentioned had been up on Quarry Slope, where there was some carpets and some a bloody remains of a brain, and I think there was a shower shoe. I said to Mike Jordan, "They're dead. They can't survive." And everybody in the state police and in the group that was doing the searching started almost in tears because they knew that we had a serial killer we were looking for. The whole idea of the search never focused on Joey's Alicio until maybe a day or two later, when we started to get information about his whereabouts and who was last seen with the kids. And we were told that Joey Alicio was last seen with the Ziemba kids. So I remember parking my car out in front of the unfinished Alicio home on Siemens Lane, and I remember seeing the white car that was used by Joey Alicio. He drove it, and the car was up on jacks, and he was repairing something underneath the car. I saw that myself. Later, it turns out that was significant because a couple of witnesses who went down into the strippings to drop off some brush or garbage, etc. Um, uh, they had recalled, they told the state police, they recalled seeing a white car in the desolate, hard, almost unfinished road back in the strippings. And they thought it was unusual. What's a car doing way the hell back up here on a Sunday afternoon? And they remember it bouncing along on this dirty and rocky road up in the strippings. And what happened is that the bouncing of the car obviously struck something underneath, and it was damaging the oil area. And so that's why Joe Alicio had the car up on the jack in the driveway, 15 feet from my car. And all of a sudden it began to dawn on everybody that we had to focus on this guy. And so we got search warrants and went into the unfinished home, and there we found the bloody trail. It was gruesome because you could put in your mind's eye exactly what happened in those last moments of life for those two kids.
Right.
He had a 12 gauge shotgun, and he shot the young boy, Christopher, in the chest. Christopher was wearing a Superman shirt with a big S on the front of it, and the bullets, the pellets went right through the S and killed him. My theory was that his sister, seeing what was happening, ran and hid in a closet in the bedroom upstairs. And as she cowered down into the corner of the closet, he took the shotgun and blew her head off.
My word.
And all of the bloody remains had seeped down into the baseboard in that closet. It was all clean. You wouldn't see it, but it was because it was clean. But what Bill Ravinsky and the other state troopers who were looking for evidence, they saw hairs. They took apart the baseboard of the closet, the little 2-inch high baseboard, and there was the blood behind the baseboard.
Brian
What we found.
Kincaid is our guest. His book is Murder in Old Forge. Ernie Preate not only investigated but prosecuted this case against 16-year-old Joseph Alucio. Gentlemen, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and Brian, I want you to take it from there as you relate it in your book. We'll be back. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. Murph tells us this date, 1967, the Young Rascals had the #1 hit with Groovin', that song. And, of course, O.J. Simpson, after that bizarre slow-speed chase on Southern California freeways, arrested and charged with murder and the slayings of his ex-wife, Nicole, and her friend, Ronald Goldman. Bob Cordaro, I met, it's funny, speaking of when Mike Munchak was inducted to the Hall of Fame, Football Hall of Fame, a bunch of people from this area went out to celebrate this amazing thing. And I get up off my seat, I forget, during a break. It was gruesomely hot that day. And I turn it, who do I run into but Al Cowlings, who drove the Simpson getaway car. And I mean, he was funny about it. I was busting him about it. I'm telling him, OJ's in the car, but he's got a gun to his head, and he seemed to be amused. Maybe I know he'd heard it all before, but yeah, Al Cowlings at the Football Hall of Fame. Well, a much more serious subject, murder in Old Forge. Joseph Aluzio, 16 at the time, murdering 2 young children, the Ziembas, 8-year-old daughter, 4-year-old son. We're joined by the author of this new book, Murder in Old Forge, Brian Kincaid and Ernie Priate. Brian Kincaid, tell us, pick the story up from where Ernie left off, where they start to suspect this 16-year-old. It had to be sheer horror in the community.
Oh, absolutely. And there was a key moment when the children's bodies were found by the Old Forge volunteer firefighters up on the mountain in the strip mining pit. There was a piece of white carpet cut in the shape of a dashboard. Joey Elizio, even though he was actually 15 years and 4 months at the time of the crime, 16 at the time of the trial, he had been driving around in a car, even though he was 15, this Plymouth Cricket that was sitting in the Elizio driveway that Ernie mentioned that he parked maybe 15 feet from, that Joey was fixing the oil pan on. That piece of carpet, Mike Jordan had the state police make a template. They brought it over to DeNaples Auto Yard. What kind of car would this fit? 1971 Plymouth Cricket. Lo and behold, what's the only Plymouth Cricket in the neighborhood?
Wow.
But the car that Joey Elizio was driving. Now, after the arrest, there had been 2 press conferences Ernie had with Mike Jordan. This was on the top of everybody's mind in the Lackawanna Valley and in Old Forge. Everybody was shaken up.
Yep.
And when they went in for the arrest on the night of July 29th to bring him in for questioning at Dunmore Barracks, there might have been about 500 to 1,000 people lining Drake's Lane and Hard Street in Old Forge and then Main Street. And then the crowd even followed them to the state police barracks. That's just how tense and how focused everybody was. So when there were 2 fellas, the 2 fellas dumping brush up on the mountain were from Duryea, Alan Hoover, Tom Skoda, 2 good friends, and they had two unique qualities. One, Alan Hoover was very much into current events and very much into the news, and Tom Skoda was very much into cars. So when they saw that car up on the mountain, and then the arrests happened, Alan Hoover said to Tom, I think we saw that car. I think we saw the kid who did it. And they contacted the state police. State police brought them back down to Dunmore Barracks, and they did something very clever. I think it was Trooper Carlson. And they went into the garage of the state police barracks and showed them one car and said, this is the car we brought in the other night from the Elizio property. And they said, well, you know what? That may be the car you brought in, but that's the car over there. They showed them the wrong car on purpose. And they picked the right car out. So that was a key moment in the case, key piece of evidence, because and Ernie really did a masterful job at trial. These were the days before there were cameras on everybody's house. This is the days before DNA. The best you could do with blood evidence was blood antigens. With 139 pieces of evidence and not a complete confession from Joey Elizio, Ernie Priate was able to weave it at trial and bring it a jury came up from Bucks County because of the pretrial publicity. They had a jury from another county come in and present this to them, and able to secure a conviction, 2 counts kidnapping, 2 counts first-degree murder of a 15-year-old. And you had to really weave all this evidence together. And Joey Elizio, by the way, had a top-notch attorney. He had Jack Breyer. It wasn't as though he didn't have competent legal counsel, but the weight of the evidence was so heavy here. And then, of course, Elizio's conduct at the trial was abhorrent. You would think you're on trial for your life, and Jack Breyer must have had a real problem with this, because he was acting up in the courtroom. I think at one point he was giving Ernie and Mike Jordan the middle finger under the table, and the jurors could see it. Ernie went up to give his closing statement, and Elizio says to him, "You scumbag," as he's walking by. And then you get to the point where after a 4-week trial, the jury comes back with a verdict, the guilty verdict. Joey Elizio puts his fist up in the air and yells, "It's party time." Day later, jury comes back after the penalty phase, 2 days later, the Friday before Memorial Day, 82, and the death verdict comes in, and Chester and Diane Ziemba are hugging Ernie, and they're leading Joey out of the courtroom. He turns to them and says, "Aren't you going to hug me?" I mean, think of that.
So this 16-year-old was a monster. And
still is. That's an operative word, you know, when you really think about it, because I ended up testifying at his resentencing hearing. Mark Powell was the DA at the time. That was December 18th, 2019. If you see in the book, I stopped working on it in the mid-'90s. I ran for a local office, and I was the dog who caught the car. I won the election, not intending to.
I know that story, Brian Kincaid.
So, you know, that and deciding to join 2 fire departments and do a law practice, I just put the book aside. It sat pretty much for 20 years untouched. I almost threw everything away the summer of 2019. Thought, you know what, this was a pipe dream. That was a stupid thing to even try to do. He had sent me the death threat letter in 1993 talking about the movie Cape Fear. He somehow found out my home address in New Jersey at the time from prison. And this is really pre-internet days, 1993. He's in prison. So he took a lot of effort to do it. And Stanley Zatolovich called me up. I think it was the weekend, maybe December 16th, 2019, and said, "You still have that letter?" And I said, "Why?" He said he's up for a resentencing hearing, because what happened, his death sentence was reversed 1987. Sentenced to life without parole. The United States Supreme Court, 2014, said life without parole unconstitutional for juvenile offenders, which he was, even though tried as an adult. So they had to have a resentencing hearing. So, you know, I looked at my office, couldn't find the letter, and I went home. I had about 2 folders on the Elizio case there, and there was the letter. That Monday morning, my secretary faxed it up to Lackawanna County DA's office. By that night, Mark Powell had a subpoena for me to testify. And I testified against him during that hearing. I think Ernie came. He was present at the hearing. He didn't testify. And the thing was real operative there was you had prison guards testify. Joey Elizio threatening their children. He'd get in a dispute with a prison guard, and then he'd make, "I'm going to get your children when I get out of here," and made shotgun sounds, you know, motions of a shotgun. There was a prisoner who testified, and then I testified myself. And, you know, I got to look him in the eye. And when I got home from the testimony, my wife said, "Well, how did it go?" And I said, I looked evil in the face, and I was disappointed.
Yeah.
Because he looked like Rick Moranis from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Even though he looks harmless, and it kind of dawned on me at that time, he probably seemed so harmless to those 2 children. And he testified at that hearing. He's again gone back and said he didn't do it. At the hearing, he said he did do it, and he said he had been fooling around with the shotgun, brought the kids to play cops and robbers in the house. And he lied because he said Cheryl was shot first and she was jumping in front of him. That was impossible. She was shot in the back of the head in that closet. And he admitted to it. But even then, there was this absence of soul. And what I mean by that, and the judge picked up on this, when his attorney asked him, what happened on July 26, 1981, his reply was, that's the day Christopher and Cheryl died. Not that I killed them, not that I pulled the trigger, not that I was responsible for their deaths, as though they were in the abstract, as though they were just play actors. And they were living, breathing children. And even at that point, all this time to reflect, and I know people say, life sentence, what a punishment. They reflect on it over the years, and they become better people. No, at least not with Joey Elizio.
Not this one. Brian Kincaid is our guest. He's got a new book, Murder in Old Forge, about the 1981 murders of the Ziemba children by Joey Elizio. It's a great book. I'm so happy you sent me a copy. Ernie Priate is also with us. He's the prosecutor who not only investigated but prosecuted the case. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Ernie Priate, I'm going to ask you to tell us how you approached the prosecution and a little bit about it. Again, Brian Kincaid, Ernie Priate, we'll be back. Our Veterans This Hour, brought to you by John Basiliga and all of his great companies, focusing this hour on Serenity Care Personal Care Communities. 4 locations: the Mid-Valley, Old Forge, Wyoming, Kingston. Personal care and dementia care services. Dementia care units located at Mid-Valley and Kingston locations. This has been all of these facilities totally remodeled, redone. The gold standard for senior care for you or your loved one in Northeast Pennsylvania. Serenity Care. Stephen Andraco. He was 81 when he passed April 29th. He was from Wilkes-Barre. Born in Hanover Township, graduate of Hanover High School. He honorably served this country as a sailor in the Navy for 4 years during the Vietnam War, earning the rank of signalman for 3rd class. He was employed through Laborers International Union, Local 215, now Local 130, a regular communicant at the Church of St. Aloysius, volunteered his time at Geisinger, Wilkes-Barre. His daughters survive him, and many other family members. Stephen Andreyko. William Lavelle, Scranton. He was 81 as well when we lost him April 23rd. Survived by his wife of 60 years, the former Dolores Child, his high school sweetheart. He was a graduate of St. Anne's High School, earned an associate's degree in accounting at Lackawanna College, and spent 2 years at the University of Scranton. He also served us for 4 years in the United States Air Force. William was employed by Economy Foods, then Affiliated Foods, and the Lackawanna Blind Associations until retirement. Member of St. Michael the Archangel Roman Catholic Church, Scranton. He was a dedicated and loving husband, father, grandfather, great-grandfather. He enjoyed telling stories about his life experiences that never left you without a laugh and a lesson. Surviving are 7 children, 15 grandchildren, 22 great-grandchildren, and other family members. Tragically preceded in death by one son, Robert. William Lavelle. The legacies of these great men. Brought to you by John Basiliga and Serenity Care. Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Joe Snedeker. Today, cloudy with on and off drizzle and showers, high 68. Tonight, mostly cloudy, low 60. Wednesday, partly sunny with a chance of showers and thunderstorms, 82. Thursday, partly sunny and warmer, chance of showers and thunderstorms, 88. Bacardo Jewelers, your Luminox watch store. Time is 10:42. Our guest is Brian Kincaid. He's the author of a new book, Murder in Old Forge. Also with us, Ernie Priate, the district attorney who investigated and prosecuted the case. Gentlemen, welcome back. I think I just messed up. I knew this was going to happen. Brian Kincaid, just call us back. But Ernie Priate, how did you approach this? Because every investigation that you were involved in, regardless of who the police agency was, you had to look at it with an eye towards how am I going to prosecute this case and make it stick. Tell us about that.
You're right, Bob. My approach was that I wanted to be at the scene of the crime or close to it in time and space so that I could put that picture in my mind's eye. So when I presented the case to a jury, I could actually refer back to my own memory as opposed to the testimony of people who were there, because I saw it. I breathed it. I smelled it. I knew it, and it would stay with me right through the months and maybe year prior to trial, that in my mind, this is what I saw. And so it's easier then to talk about it, to present it to a jury, and because you're going to paint a picture. You have to paint a picture to a jury that's never been there to see these things and know those things like I would know it. So I used my voice and the questioning through the witnesses as a brush to paint a picture little by little to a jury. This was a circumstantial evidence case. Brian pointed out we had like 139 exhibits that we introduced in evidence, and it was a powerful case. There wasn't any doubt about the guilt of Joey Alicio.
Ernie Priate, a bunch of our listeners texting in, and they're asking. They said one said a rumor floating around Old Forge that Joey's brother actually did the shooting and Joey took the blame, and another said I used to walk home every day from school with Joey Alicio. I still don't believe he did it alone. How did you get to that focus and prove in your mind, and then obviously to a juror, that he was the trigger man and the sole murderer.
Well, he was the sole person that was seen going into the house with the kids. Diane Ziemba, the mother, testified to that, and he was the only person driving the vehicle. That was his vehicle. It wasn't his brother's vehicle, and we established that his brother wasn't anywhere near the crime scene at the time. It was on Sunday afternoon. He was nowhere near there. We established he was somewhere else. Was the brother involved in helping to cover it up? I don't think so. I never saw the brother, and I was down at the scene multiple days. I personally did not see the brother associating with Joey, fixing the car, for example, that sort of thing. I never saw him do that, and the state police were satisfied that he was not involved.
Fascinating. And the horror of a then 15-year-old kid committing the murders and then trying a 16-year-old for capital murder. Did you have any hesitation in approaching this as an adult crime?
No. There's crimes committed by kids under 16 all over the world, and in Pennsylvania too. And we have a process that allows you to go to court and ask that the teenager be tried as an adult. And by the time he was tried, he was over 16. And by the time the Supreme Court ruled in 4 or 5 years later that the case was so strong, it was beyond the reasonable doubt. That's what the Supreme Court said, Pennsylvania. So I didn't have any problems going for the death penalty. I remember telling Jack Breyer when we were down in Bucks County, in Doylestown, picking the jury.
Yeah.
And I had suggested to Jack, who was a great defense attorney, God bless his soul, and I said to him, because he said to me, Ernie, you'll never get a jury. This is a kid. You'll never get a jury that wants to put a kid to death. And so we're going through the jurors down in Doylestown, which is kind of liberal county. And as we're talking to them in voir dire, back and forth from the stand, Judge Jim Walsh was presiding on this case. And as I'm questioning them whether they could do the death penalty, and they said yes. And I had them look right at Joey Alicio in the courtroom when we were selecting the jury down there. And I said, see this young man here? I said, well, I'm going to ask you, if you convict him of first-degree murder, I'm going to ask you to put him to death. And I wanted to see what their reaction was. And so that's called death qualifying the jury. And we had 3 or 4 jurors that said that they could do that. And I saw in a recess with Jack, I said, Jack, you told me that there was nobody that's going to find this guy guilty of first-degree murder and won't put him to death. And I said, we just found 4 people right here, 5 people that have said that they could do that.
Ernie Priet, was there ever a time when plea deal was discussed?
Briefly down in while we're picking a jury, as I just pointed out, in Bucks County. But Jack wanted 1 count of first-degree murder, and then a second count of a third-degree murder. I said, Jack, I can't do that. There are 2 kids that were killed. I mean, I'm going to treat one as a more serious victim than the other. I said, it's impossible. I'm not going to do that. And so that's why we went to trial.
Fascinating. Ernie Priet, our guest, and Brian Kincaid, the author of the book Murder in Old Forge. Brian Kincaid, and I apologize for hanging up on you there. My technical skills are lacking.
You're not the first in my life.
We were talking to Ernie Priet about his approach to the prosecution. How heavily does the book get into the appeal process and Joe Iluzio in prison?
It does get in towards the end of the book. I just want to address one thing with those texts
where they said Bobby Elizio. Ernie said they established he was somewhere else. Bobby was playing softball at the White Eagle Hose Company ball field. There was a softball tournament that day, and he had been there at the softball tournament in the time, like between 4 and 6 o'clock, where the children disappeared in front of dozens of witnesses. It was impossible. He was not there.
Yeah.
So,
and you know how these things in a town, you just say, oh, he couldn't have done it alone, or you start rethinking and all that. But there's no doubt in your mind, Brian Kincaid, that Joe Eluzio was the sole murderer of these children.
No doubt whatsoever. And then I think one person said, "Oh, I walked home from school with him." Well, maybe that person came within 5 minutes of being murdered and didn't know it. You just don't know, because things were building up that summer. But going into the appellate process in death row, when we had the benefit of Joey when he testified in December of 2019, at which time he admitted it. Again, for everybody who said, oh, he couldn't have done it, he admitted it in court, okay, in a resentencing hearing. So if he has facts a little askew to make himself look better, the bottom line is he admitted to the murder of 2 children and not put anybody else in there. But he talked about when he was on death row, he couldn't believe that he was there. He woke up every morning, am I really here? And the death penalty, once the Pennsylvania Supreme Court overturned it in 1987, didn't end the appeals. There were countless appeals. He did tons of pro se, meaning representing himself appeals. I think he still has one pending now before the Third Circuit of the United States, where he's saying, because one of the things he's done over time with all his appeals is say, my attorney was bad, Jack Breyer was bad, this attorney was bad, and DeAndrea, who represented him most recently, he made me say that I killed the kid so I could get a lower sentence on resentencing. I didn't really mean that. So, there's always this deflecting blame. The appellate process brought us to that courtroom in Scranton in December of 2019 in regard to resentencing. And Judge Giroulo, Ernie was there at the hearing. I testified, Ernie didn't, but it was interesting what Judge Giroulo said. And he said, there's no volume discount on murder. 2 children's lives were taken here. And he sentenced Joey to 30 years, 30 to life on one murder, served consecutively with 30 to life on the other murder. So 60 years, 2041, before he's eligible for parole at age 75. And court after court after court has reviewed the trial, reviewed the evidence on appeal. Pennsylvania Supreme Court multiple times, United States District Court, Third Circuit Court of Appeals. And what they all come to is what Ernie said, that there was no one else other than Joseph Elizio. The evidence was overwhelming. And I know he had supporters in town, and maybe some are listening who did this. The Ziemba family was harassed afterwards, after the convictions. There were people who called the Ziemba house or called members of the extended family afterwards, mocking a child's voice, saying, "Is Chrissy there?" And, if anybody's listening to that, one of your listeners who participated in that, I think that person earned a special circle in hell, quite honestly. It's one thing to think a friend of yours or think somebody's not guilty. Okay, that's your prerogative. But to take that extra step, there's no doubt that the children were murdered. And you're calling the family. This was back in 82, 83, I believe. And maybe somebody's listening who participated in that. Proud of yourselves now?
Fascinating. Brian Kincaid, he's the author of Murder in Old Forge. Brian, where could they get this book?
Currently, it's being released by Arcadia on July 8th. It's going to be on Amazon. It's on pre-order on Amazon. It's on pre-order on Barnes & Noble. Pre-order on Target and Walmart. I know that Barnes & Noble down in Wilkes-Barre has ordered it. It may end up showing up at the CVS because they carry the Arcadia books, so they may be getting them. We may be doing a book signing at the Wilkes-Barre, Barnes and Noble sometimes in the fall, and we'll see. But it's going to be available come July 8th.
Well, you let us know, Brian Kincaid, whenever you want to publicize the publication and the availability of this great book. It really reads well. You did a great job. You did a great job with it.
Well, I had a lot of material. One of the things I had a advantage of, I had the trial transcript, which in Pennsylvania, at least at the time, and maybe Ernie could speak to that briefly, the court reporter was in chambers because you saw the back and forth with Jack Breyer in the book during the trial section. And, people
Jack
generally don't know what goes on.
Jack was a fighter. I tried case against him. It was fun.
Yeah, he definitely was. I think his nickname in the courthouse was Mouthy. So he was always trying. He was always trying, and that's true. I think that was even in Jack's, God rest his soul, his obituary.
Yeah.
So he was a fighter, and he fought very hard. Joey Elizio did not have incompetent counsel. He had highly competent counsel. But you can only work so hard with what you had.
Exactly. Thank you, Brian Kincaid. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, and thank you, Ernie.
You let me know when you're ready to come on again. We will do it.
All right. Very good, Bob.
Okay. Ernie Priate, any last thoughts on these Ziemba murders and how it all turned out?
Well, I'm glad to see that Brian wrote the book. It needed to be done. I think that you were getting a picture of the terror that was felt in the community because for 6 long days we didn't know who the murderer was, basically. We had suspicions, but all that time it was front page of the newspaper, made national news, and it was terror had struck into the hearts of this quiet Old Forge town in which I grew up. And I knew that area very well, and I just never. I'm 85 years old now, and I'm glad that I'm able to do this, Bob, on your show, and with Brian, who's written that great book. I hope it's a big success. But the bottom line is, 2 kids were killed by Joey Elizio alone. What happened after that was Chester, the father, unfortunately died at an early age. He became a heavy drinker. Diane lived quite a while, and I used to see her after many years afterward, but she was a broken woman.
Yeah.
She was a broken woman, and no one in that neighborhood has ever been the same. And no one in Old Forge has ever been the same. But in the end, justice was done.
Thank you, Ernie Priate. Appreciate it very much. Mr. Kincaid as well, Brian Kincaid. Thank you both for this, and we appreciate it. The book is A Murder in Old Forge by Brian Kincaid. We'll take a break and be back with the news after this. Great good morning, everyone. 11:11 a.m. here in the great Northeast. This beautiful Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, and it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values, and with the help of our man John Basiliga and his great company, Serenity Care, to honor the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like veterans we lost this year, but have the opportunity and honor to celebrate today. Like Anthony Yaninis, Hanover Township, Alessandro Sonny Tuzzi, Mayfield, Stephen Andraco, Wilkes-Barre, William Lavelle, Scranton, John Sable, late of Wellsboro, but from Edwardsville and Plains, Jay Weindell, Hilton Head, South Carolina, but he lived here in Mountaintop. So, with history, our great founding fathers, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let us continue today's battle, gaveling back to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, reminding you that it is Bacardo Jewelers, your Luminox watch store. Time is 11:12. Hey, I got to give credit where credit is due. My man and one of our executive producers, Mark Mayer, he's got some Chaminade quality people listening. And that includes Pete McCormick, John Motion, and John Hooks Patterson sent in the 9 Principles of Propaganda, which we read. Someone texted in, they said, sounds like you every day. Well, here's the difference. You cannot disprove any of the facts that I base my arguments upon. And I always talk to you about this. I say, look, by the way, thank you to Jackie Mason. Boy, did he give us a lot of fun. But I always say this. I don't have a problem with you disputing a conclusion. Just don't make up your own facts. And that's what the left does. That's what the Democrat Party does. It's a disgrace. Absolute disgrace. Like this idiotic weekend protest on Flag Day. Like, go get your own day. Go get a-hole day for you. You left-wing Democrat apologists. Have a-hole day, but get your own. Don't even try to take away from the 250th anniversary of our U.S. Army and Flag Day. Yeah. Yeah, somebody says... What we played in the opening hour, reminiscence of comments by John Kerry, another big, huge ass. The left was against illegal immigration before they were for it. Yep. Before they realized they were ruining their towns and states and were going to lose representation and federal money, so they had to ship in people to make up for everybody who got the hell out of Dodge because they suck. Yeah, that's what happened. A lot of you commenting on the Alicio murder case. Yeah, that was fascinating. It had the region riveted at the time, back in 1981. Yep. Joe from Trips Park checking in. But yeah, I'm so happy John Hooks Patterson getting us the 9 Principles of Propaganda. I've had it printed, and I'm going to turn to it on certain days. Well, usually when Mark Mayer prompts me, I do it. So thanks to the Chaminade gang, as always. Love you. Absolutely love you. All right. Well, today in the paper, there's an article. And it says, well, in one of the rags, the Times Tribune, Bullis sues to remove City Hall's pride flag. Where he also aims to prohibit rainbow motif banner from display at any government building in the county. And the aforementioned Bob Bullis is with us. Bob, how are you?
I'm doing good, Robert.
Tell us about this lawsuit. Tell us the basis of it, where you're headed.
Well, the basis of it is to remove the queer flag from City Hall and any other government buildings, period. It's against the law. The law is very clear on it, and they got to take them down. And we'll just see what judge is going to stand up and get it done.
Which specific law, Bob Bolus, says that it can't fly? And what's the basis behind it?
Well, the basis is that you could put the American flag, POW flag, but that is not a flag. And I think it was spelled out pretty good in my complaint.
Okay.
And I don't have it in front of me right now to give you a quote on it. But I could call you back and give you word by word what it is. But
please, yeah. I'd like to know the legal, because I told you this, Bob, and I don't even know if we disagree on this. I don't care if it flies. If it's against the law, that's another story.
Yeah, well, it is against the law. It cannot be on a government building.
Okay.
And I think Lockwood spelled it out a little in the paper.
Yeah, it's on the front page of the rag. Don't go out and waste your money on it, but I'd rather have you. I'd rather have you tell us about the lawsuit than them. So maybe you check in with us later this week. All right, Bob?
Yeah, I'll check in and let you know what's going on. And then, as far as your buddy Gahan out there,
it was
standing up there,
so disgraceful on Saturday. Man, it was actually sickening.
It was, and then he made the comment. As you know, I had the Bob Bolus Tours and Truckers for American Trump trailer there, and the picture of Trump with Jesus Christ replacing the Secret Service with divine intervention on the trailer, and everybody else, our veterans and all that, are on the trailer. And we were parked there, and then, of course, I took a ride around with the protesters there. And so many idiots. Really, one guy tried to jam me as I was turning off Linden on the Washington, tried to jam it, and he rubbed up against the fender, which I didn't even know he did. It's just like a paint. And they call it a hit and run. After he pulled over, parked on the left side of Washington, got out of his car and walked away, and they called it a hit and run. So, it's all the BS you got to deal with. But people were so stupid to think they could run in front of the truck and put their hands on the front of it and think they were going to hold it back, including one idiot on a bicycle. It doesn't work that way. You don't jump in front of a truck when I'm driving and coming down the road.
Bob, these are people who don't understand facts, truth, and reality. I always say it. I mean, they would not understand a tractor trailer coming at them.
And, the sick part of it all is when I looked at all that, I listened to Gahan telling people, they talked about the trailer, and he pointed, he said, don't pay attention to them. Well, if you don't pay attention to that trailer, then you shouldn't be sitting in office because it represents America. Not the idiot that he supported on that they call Biden Street. That's going to be going shortly. But that trailer just came back after 4 months. I sent it with disinfectant wipes to Florida, North Carolina. Then it stayed out there. Went to California, delivering supplies to all those that were damaged by floods and hurricanes and the forest fires in North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky. I'd like to ask any one of those jackasses that were there, what have they done for the people? What have they spent to take care of the people around the country? That's what that trailer represented. It was DeSantis took a picture with it. The governor of North Carolina wanted his picture with it. And what did it represent? It represent help to the people that nobody gave a damn about, especially all those clowns that were standing there from Gahan and the rest of them, and those that went to the city council and all that bitching about me, this, that, and the other. Just tell me what you've done for the people around the country. I don't pat myself on the back. I do it because it's what I believe in, being an American. And it was our Veterans Day. It was our day for the Army. It's our day and nobody should interfere with it.
Amen.
And they did.
Bob
And they
Willis,
should have watched Kennedy with the tanks and stuff when he was in there. Why didn't they say something about that?
the hypocrisy is off the charts on every single issue. Bob Bullis, thank you as always. We'll follow up. We'll follow on that lawsuit. See where it heads. I told you this. If it's against the law, well, okay, then don't put the pride flag up or whatever other flag. If it isn't, and let's see if we get a reasoned judgment on this, because there's a lot of political pressure that goes beyond the truth and the facts. But I have no problem with the flag. I just don't. But what they take it to represent is that people get special privileges because of how they were born, not the other way around, not equality. And so that's where they lose me. And where they try to enforce, just for example, transsexual desires upon children. And the medical establishment makes billions every year off of this crime. Yeah. Now here's a typical. Many veterans were out protesting. Now I'm guessing Trump, wants to make their medical care optional if they are unmarried or Democrat. Where do you get this crap from? You just listen to an idiot like Gaughan and then you just repeat it? I give our listeners more credit than being this stupid. By the way, just because you're a veteran doesn't mean you have touch with facts, truth, and reality. And the thing that they're all missing, there are no cuts, period. There's reduction in growth. That's it. That's all. Reductions in growth. We're out of money. Does anybody get this point? Does anybody on the left understand this? We're almost at the point of crushing our economy with this wild government borrowing and spending, ruining the United States of America, ruining the promise of this country, ruining the dream of economic success in this country with this wild government spending on insanity. We paid, taxpayers, we paid for the Los Angeles riots. We paid for this weekend's protests. Tax money through NGOs, through nonprofits, went to these protests. It's insane. And these people, they're defending crazy. And you could be goofy with government money when they have it. They're borrowing it. Don't you get it? Somebody reminds me, wasn't it the left that said our returning veterans were a threat to our country? Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And no, Bob Bullis didn't call veterans clowns. I'm sitting here. See, you hear things on the left. You're triggered and you run off into the wilderness to your own facts, truth, and reality because you don't have a real one. Disgraceful. The same left-wing idiot says we paid for his parade. No, it was the Army's parade. 250th anniversary of protecting the country and the world. A lot more taxpayer money went to the protests than went to the parade. So stop being a stupid idiot. God almighty. I'll remember the number so I don't read their messages anymore. You're too dumb to talk to. Seriously. It's an embarrassment. You're one of our listeners. You're part of our family here on this show. I don't mind disagreement. Stupidity, though, it's not worth the effort. Well, we didn't even get to talk about Iran and Israel. Iran, once again, begging for talks because they want to delay the attacks the Israelis are levying against them. Keep it up, Israel. Keep it up. Let's go after evil. Maybe we could have a regime change in Iran. And by the way, you have to protect your existence. We'll take a break and be back. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. Our veterans this hour and every hour, this day and every day, brought to you by John Basiliga and his tremendous family of companies. That includes Serenity Care, a personal care community with 4 locations: Mid-Valley, Old Forge, Wyoming, Kingston. Dementia care units at the Mid-Valley and Kingston facilities, which have been completely renovated and redone. John has a passion for providing the highest quality senior care in the area and beautiful personal care homes for seniors to live in. For yourself, for your family members, check out Serenity Care. John Sable, he was 83 when he passed. He lived in Wellsboro, but he was from Edwardsville and Plains. Veteran of the U.S. Navy, serving during the opening of the St. Lawrence Seaway. He graduated from Plains High School, Wilkes-Barre Business College, and Baltimore University. Prior to retiring, John worked as an auditor for the International Lady Garment Workers Union, the ILGWU, Red Rock Job Corps as a personal manager, and the Diocese of Scranton as fiscal manager, and the PLCB, Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board, as assistant manager. He's survived by his wife of 32 years, Susan, daughters, stepdaughters, granddaughters, and great-granddaughters. John Sable. Jay Weindel. He was just 50 when he died February 23rd. He was living in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Born in Tampa. He grew up in Florida and South Carolina, but he moved to Mountaintop. And there he graduated from Bishop Hoban High School and became a Navy veteran. His adulthood was spent traveling with his family throughout the United States as a successful hotelier prior to settling in Hilton Head. Longtime leader in the hospitality industry, acknowledged in that industry throughout the country. His impact reached far beyond the boardroom, shaping careers and lives of those fortunate enough to work alongside him. Jay had a zest for life, an infectious smile, and a contagious laugh. More than 600 people went to Honey Horn Plantation to celebrate a man who was larger than life. Jay's survived by his wife, Carrie, his son, Connor. And in Jay's honor, the Hilton Head Chamber of Commerce established the Connor Weindel College Fund to support his son's future. Jay Weindel. Our great veterans this hour, brought to you by Serenity Care. Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Joe Snedeker. Today, cloudy with on and off drizzle and showers, 68. Tonight, mostly cloudy, 60. Wednesday, partly sunny with a chance of showers and thunderstorms, 82. Thursday, partly sunny and warmer, chance of showers and thunderstorms, 88. I'm golfing this afternoon. I want to enjoy my time with Vic Fangio and his beloved Kathy and brother Ron, but it's drizzly. I'm a fair weather golfer. You know? I don't know, you guys are. Anyway, Bob, I'm 74 years old, and that parade and ceremony in Washington made me want to join up. Thanks, and LTS, Tom from Bloomsburg. I'm with you, Tom. Thank you. No, our troll says, LOL, at least I've never been dumb enough to end up in prison. That's a fair point, but it doesn't help you for being an idiot. My stupidity doesn't help yours. You're proving it repeatedly. I've overcome it. So the majority of the vets that have been protesting have been scared by the left to believe that Trump is coming for all their benefits, which is a lie. You're right, Lee. You are right. Again, the whole premise is based on lies. This is what they do. This is who they are. Liars. It's a scary thing. Bulldog, do you have something to play for me on a lighter note? Murph tells us the Turtles, this date 1967, moved up to number 3 with their hit, She'd Rather Be With Me. And this is from Sarah Ware, traveling to North Carolina to listen to the program with the man Art Ware. He says she's going to slap him, but she's a great wife. All right, Sarah. There you go. Bob, what I'd not mentioned about the parade is that the last one in Washington, D.C. was 34 years ago when the military came home from Desert Storm. Thank you. And thank you to Trump from Bob Bolles. Yep. All right, let's go to the blower real quick. We got our man Donald from Pittston. Donald, how are you?
Good. Bob, this is all dark money.
Well, Donald, you got to wait for your theme song.
Okay.
I know you got to, since you've come to the right side,
right.
We got theme songs and everything for you. All right. Fire away, Donald. How are you, man?
No, these people, I know them people from the Greenridge section Avenue. They're devoted Catholics. They're being paid by some dark money agenda. This is all about political jobs. Nobody thinks this way. And the media's backing them, and everybody else against because they don't like Trump's agenda. They don't like Trump as a person. And you can see what they're doing. I know these people. They went to church. I know those churches up there in Manuka and all over, and in Greenridge, St. Pat's.
And Donald, what's most outrageous is that there are nonprofits and groups like Act Blue and like a couple of George Soros's things that are getting federal tax money, our tax money, to initiate these lies and these protests. It's insane.
But what's worse is doing the harm to the children with the operations and those gender operations. They ain't going to do that to their own kids. They support that gender affirming care nonsense. They know that's all wrong.
Yep.
This guy here that murdered them people, they talked to his roommate. He said it wasn't about, they're trying to say it was pro-life. He said no, the roommate. It was mostly because of the gender nonsense. He went crazy. He couldn't handle it because that's where the tampons were in the boys' bathrooms and stuff.
Yeah.
And this guy, this Walls, he was on a crusade. I called Sue Henry last week. He was on a crusade against Trump, saying that he was a Nazi and Gestapo, and he was part of the problem. He said he was going to go from state. I told you about it. I texted you. He was going to go to state and disparage Trump and his followers and stuff. So you can't. They're just ones that stirring the pot. I mean, they should be ashamed of themselves. Can't they
have no shame. They're not capable of shame. They're really not. Because without you can't be ashamed of yourself unless you have self-awareness. You can't be.
I start money. Check it out. They watch the exam. That guy investigated for those operating all that nonsense. Somebody's paying these people, and they figure, hey, I guess if they don't take the money, they can't feed their families. That's the only way you would do these insane policies. Nobody normal thinks like this. You have to go in a mental institution like 15 years ago if you start talk like that. They put you a net over you, throw you in a mental institution. When they're acting like this is normalcy.
I was watching Commissioner Gaughan's speech, and I said if he was at Clark Summit State Hospital, they wouldn't let him out.
If he was alive, Governor Casey, he'd think that son would lost his mind.
Yeah.
I knew Governor Casey. He was a devoted pro-life Catholic. He protected kids and everything. That's why Bob lost that election. Okay, with this gender nonsense, and they keep promoting it, and that's I'm telling you, this issue is huge. I told you about this 2 years ago. We talked about it,
and they're forgetting about the tens of thousands of children who are in labor slavery and who are in sex slavery because of Joe Biden. They're protesting that too. Oh, they forgot about that, didn't they?
Why do you think this Weingarten got out of there? She's left. She knows better because she was promoting this transgender stuff where a teacher could take the kid and just change the sex and everything, and the kid come without behind your back. No, she's left. She knows better.
Randy Weingarten is actually afraid that they're not going far enough left.
Yeah, but she's scared. She got out of everybody. I mean, that's why these people know what they're doing is insane, and they don't want to be targeted. I don't want to see anything but no violence whatsoever. It's scary.
I know.
People are even afraid to call it. This is what they're doing is just it's just not beyond anti-American. This is like demonic stuff. Like you read from this is like pure Satanism. You got to call it out.
I know
what they're doing. Anti-Israel, anti-American. The blocking police cars, and like Bola said, what they're doing to him is terrible.
I know it. Thank you,
It really
Donald.
is. And then, then they say they're going to cut your benefits or something, and what are you going to do?
I know it. Thank you,
it's
Donald.
Sad. You got to pray. You got to really pray for them to come to the light.
No, they have nothing but my sympathy. They really. I will.
They're really sick people.
I will call them out,
that, Bob.
but I have sympathy.
You hate
for
to
them.
say it, but they're sick. They need help.
Yep. Thank you,
like they said to Jesus, even if you break bread with him, he said to the Pharisees, he said, why are you with these sinners and tax collectors? And Jesus said, the sick is in need of a physician. They are in need of a physician. The Democrats and the far left. Do you agree?
Yes, without doubt. John from Falls. How are you, John?
Hey, Bob. God bless you. Pretty good. Hey, I want to give a scenario as an appeal to Democratic voters. And I just picture this in your mind. If Mexico were to invade the United States, kill 40,000 of our citizens, rape women repeatedly, murder them, burn babies alive in front of parents, do these things and send pictures, and immediately after that, the United States responded and went into Mexico to get back hostages and responded to the heinous and awful things that were done. And the rest of the world all of a sudden stood up in sympathy for Mexico because the United States. I mean,
I know
that's literally when I look at these people dressed like terrorists. We have to understand that Iran is the number one terrorist nation on earth. They pay for all this stuff, and when I see these people dressed like this, I don't understand. I just don't understand how people could reach this level of stupidity or hard-heartedness. I would have no problem if Israel wiped Iran off the face of the earth in a way for what's happened to. I mean, if the equivalent would be 40,000 Americans.
Yep.
It wouldn't matter if they were Democrats, Independents, or Republicans. It wouldn't matter. Wives being raped, babies being shot in the air, murdered.
Well, John, most of the people, here's the interesting point. Most of the people who live near the borders, particularly in the kibbutz that were raided and people were slaughtered, were trying to fight their own government on behalf of the Gazans.
How'd that work?
Yeah, think about it. It's insane. It's sad, and there are savages and there's civilization we have to protect. And right now, the Democrat Party and the left in particular, but they own the Democrat Party, and all the people who protested are protesting on behalf of savagery. Nothing else.
They are. They're wicked. I have another. I want to sound off another thing. June 19th. The Emancipation of Declaration was declared on January 1st, 1863 by Abraham Lincoln. It didn't come on Juneteenth. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I thought it was 65, but I'll stand corrected too.
I think it was 63, but it was definitely not Juneteenth.
No.
It was definitely not Juneteenth. It was definitely
There's a date associated with freedom. And I don't know. I'm sort of like, on these things and like the pride flag, I don't have an objection to them blowing their own horn. Just don't look for special privileges from everybody. That's all. You know?
Well, if you want to blow your own horn, don't do it on public government property unless you're going to put up the Christian flag or unless you're going to put up the missing in action flag. You're going to have to put all flags up if you're going to put theirs up.
Yep.
You can't have favoritism.
And eventually,
but thank you for letting me sound off.
John, soon enough there won't be any room on the flagpoles. I know.
That's what would happen. I don't know if you're catching too, where Gavin Newsom, the wicked leader of stupid California.
Yes.
I don't know how to describe it. He's cutting $12 billion from the Medicare, but he's going to apply that $12 billion or million, to he's going to apply it for the homeless and the protesters. Somebody tell me why? How on earth anyone could have two brain cells and be a Democrat? At least if you don't like the Republicans, at least be an independent.
Yes.
How do you support?
I agree. John, thank you, my friend.
Okay, have a blessed day, my good fellow.
Thank you. They are laughable. It's insane. Hey, Mother Teresa, let's get this in quick. June 17th. Holiness is not something extraordinary, not something for only a few. Holiness is for every one of us. It is a simple duty, the acceptance of God with a smile at all times, anywhere and everywhere. St. Teresa. Thanks, Mary Regina. Yeah. How about that? Murph pulled this one out of his hat. This date, 1968, the Ohio Express received a gold record for the hit Yummy. A lot of good songs we're not going to get to. The Stones with Tumbling Dice and The Cars, Just What I Needed. And Sweet, Love is Like Oxygen. There's 3 great songs. Because we're going to finish with the entirety of Ringo Starr, because in this date, 1989, he announced his new all-star band that featured Billy Preston, Joe Walsh, Dr. John, Clarence Clemens, Rich Danko, our guy who we play every hour, Levon Helm, and Nils Lofgren. It don't come easy. Great way to finish the program. My man Nicky D sending me the daily prayer, and good stuff. Yeah, our executive director, our executive producer, one of our main executive producer, Mr. Paul, he's got a little bit of a height problem. More weight than height. And it's not working for him. I have my Camp Freedom shirt on. I fit easily into a 2XL. I think I could wear an XL. I think I could wear an XL even at my 240 pounds, which I'm ashamed to say, because I'll go the other way. You know, I'll lose it. So as Ringo sings it out, our Bacardo Jewelers, the watch store, the Swiss Army watch store. Time is 11:58. That means we're almost done. Somebody said, did you mention Mel Gibson on Fox? I did not. I didn't see him, but I know what he said. I mean, he's calling out these left-wing lunatics. I point it out all the time. You look at our Mayor Cognetti. You look at, in Scranton, you look at the Lackawanna County Commissioner Gahan, and you say they're left-wing lunatics. Well, that means, by definition, they don't understand what truth is, what fact is, and what reality is. Well, how could they possibly do a good job? Being a leftist, that's Gavin Newsom, that's all of them. It's almost guaranteed to produce incompetence. It's just what is. If you don't know what's going on, if you don't get reality, if you deny facts that are right in front of you, how could you possibly do your job and do it well? You can't. And we're getting it, unfortunately, at our end of the listening audience. Tax increases and potholes and idiotic protests, all of it. We're getting it all. Well, from that horrible subject onto a good subject, we want to mention our veterans, brought to you by our guy John Basiliga and his great companies, including Serenity Care. Jay Weindel, late of South Carolina, but mountaintop guy. William Lavelle, Scranton. John Sable, late of Wellsboro, but Edwardsville and Plains was his home. Stephen Andraco, Wilkes-Barre. Alessandro Sonny Tuzzi, Mayfield. Anthony Yaninis, Hanover Township. Great veterans we got to talk about today and celebrate today. Well, the Sue Henry Show next. Rob O'Donnell after that. As our guy Ringo continues. Another great day with you guys. You know that. Even those of you who are a bit confused on life and politics. You're part of the family. Yes, you are. We love you. Don't think for a second we don't. We just question your sanity. And we do that out of love. You guys have a great afternoon. I hope it doesn't rain, because I'll be outside slogging around if it does. But you have a great one. God willing, I'll be back with you tomorrow morning. But for now, we've got to gavel to a close this meeting of the Club for Common Sense. and give you an adios.